Welcome back. This is CerealSnax, and this is the 4th edition of the Snax Mix, where I kind of just talk about a whole bunch of things. Primarily my engineer character that I've been playing, and World vs. World. Sometimes I touch on crafting, sometimes I touch on just questing in general, or that sort of thing. So today I'm going to focus a little bit on World vs. World, but first I want to kind of show you my traits and what I'm doing, and kind of walk through that kind of stuff in my character tab so that you can kind of see what that is all about. So if I pull it up right here, actually my character is lying down. That's how I make these cool little visuals. I'm actually overlooking Lion's Arch right now. It's kind of a cloudy day. So let's just take a look real quick. I'm only level 35, so I haven't made it yet to 80, and I'm kind of taking my time. I've talked about that before. And really what I want to do is just show you, I think that at this point in time I can successfully talk about PvE and PvP to some extent, at least World versus World, not necessarily structured PvP, but at least the mass realm versus realm type stuff that we do. Now, one thing I've done is I've been unlocking skills, and you get skill points. They come like candy, really. They're not hard to get, and I'm guaranteed to be able to unlock everything and probably have extra skill points at the end of the day, just because of how many skill points you get for leveling and for doing quests around the quest zones and that sort of thing. So you can see I've unlocked a lot of stuff. You can see the stuff that's blacked out is not unlocked, and I've actually started to get down into the elite skills down here, and I can show you that in a second. But some of the ones I really favor, you can see there are healing skills up here, the normal elixir H skill, which allows you to heal yourself, a med kit, which you actually replaces your entire bar with healing type skills, and I can show that really quick. I have not used it that much. I haven't been much of a healing type class. You can see you can drop bandages that people can pick up. This would be great in World vs. World if you were just trying to keep your team alive, more or less. I'm going to leave the queue here because I'm in the overflow. And that is not as interesting to me. I mainly do my Elixir H. Sometimes I throw down a healing turret, which allows you to, it heals you over time. And that's great for boss fights, for any fight that you're doing by yourself where you're fighting a creature or an enemy with huge amounts of health. That healing turret is awesome because there's really no other way to heal yourself except for your potion, which doesn't refresh as quick enough when you're hitting like a veteran type elite creature like that. The next thing that I really favor is this Elixir U, which is actually on the utility one, and what it does is it gives you quickness, which is amazing. Quickness, you get it for 5 seconds, but really what it does is it doubles your damage, more or less, because it doubles your speed at which you shoot, attack, everything. And then of course you also get haste, which means you can run, so that sort of thing. So I love that potion. I try to hit it every time I can. The next one, these next two I'm not as certain on what I really want to do with them. I do like the personal batting ram, which knocks your enemy away, which is helpful if you're trying to kind of kite them. And then the other one I do is this Elixir B, which allows you to gain Fury, Might, Retaliation, and Swiftness, which allows you to run faster, which is nice. And I use that in World vs. World just to get away from stuff. But it also gives you Fury and Might, which gives you higher crits and that sort of thing. So I've kind of been toying with these two. When I'm fighting PvE, a lot of times I will use my flamethrower. That's huge. The flamethrower is great it's a great AoE attack, great for areas of enemies, and you'll see me using it in my PvE videos, and probably you have already seen me using it. And then of course then I use the rifle or the pistols. Right now I've got pistols because the rifle I have in my inventory is really not that great, but I don't see a lot of difference between rifles and pistols, although I will say in PvE, pistols are nice because they do area effects, the blowtorch and the static shot. The rifle doesn't do that as much. It's more of a single target kind of thing, so you find yourself switching to the flamethrower more when you have more group type attacks. The other one that I like in World vs. World, and you'll see this in my World vs. World footage I'm going to show here in a minute, is that the net turret allows you to stop people. And I don't know if it's really as useful as I think, but sometimes I like to throw it down in World vs. World, so if I have to get away, it'll actually auto shoot nets out to stop people from catching me, running me down. So that's a quick look. Let me just show you my traits really quick. This has been very good, and actually World vs. World, it's hard to tell because of how many people are always playing, but I really like this so far. I've got my explosives up to 10, and I picked this particular one, which gives me a 33% chance to burn on a critical hit. And since I've got these critical potions, that kind of mirrors up well with that. And then on firearms, I've got hair trigger, which allows me to refresh my rifle, pistol, and harpoon skills 20% faster, which, since I rely on those the most, that's pretty helpful. And then alchemy, The only thing I've really got is it adds to your vitality, which is nice. You get more health. But it also drinks Elixir B at 75% health, so it drinks one of these guys. And it doesn't actually kill the cooldown on this one, so you could actually drink that, and then once it's over, drink another one. So I like those potions. That's good. That's good. So anyway, that's a quick look, and I will jump to the World vs. World footage. You can see actually I've got some cool dyes. He's not holding his pistols anymore. There we go. Got some cool dyes lately, the chocolate and the frost, which is the white and the brown, basically, that are very rare dyes. So I've been kind of happy, kind of just, tricking them out. I'm actually standing on the diving board at Lion's Arch. So I will see you in a moment for World vs. World. And while we're in World vs. World, I'll give you some news on what's going on in the Guild Wars 2 world. So be right back. Alright, so this is some recent World vs. World footage that I have. Our server is actually pitted against Jade Quarry and the Henge of Denravi, and we're finding quickly that the Henge of Denravi is really, really coordinated with their PvP. Jade Quarry is okay; they're decent. You can see they're kind of attacking one of our bases here. And in this particular instance, I'm kind of going to focus more on my character, but I also talk about these other servers because I think some of the things that the Henge of Denravi has done has been pretty incredible in terms of strategy. They've taken a lot of ideas from other games like that have Realm vs. Realm, like Dark Age of Camelot, and really applied them in a really powerful way. So right now we're pushing Jade Quarry back, and you can see I'm throwing down my net turret, just kind of trying to do what I can and staying back. One thing I've learned quickly about World vs. World is that no class can really engage in a melee fashion, and that really does prevent Zergs to some extent, because when even the warriors can't really rush in and hit you straight on, then you know that things are going to be more strategical, just because there are some warriors. Now, I guess I'll have to clarify that to some extent. There are some warriors who have the right equipment, the right vitality, the right stats that they can wade in and survive for a short period of time. But it isn't very long. And it's really, you can see we're picking off these people who are making the mistake of running into us, like anywhere near us. Every class, more or less, in Guild Wars 2 uses their ranged attacks, just simply because you just cannot survive against the large amount of people. So it becomes less of a Zerg fest and more of a strategy kind of thing. So you can see the bridges are very important. It really helps push people back. You can see we're on this bridge now. Oh, there's a little guy under the bridge here, and I noticed that. So I went after him. He's fighting an Earth Elemental, which is just a random mob. I don't know if anybody else sees him. So what I did was I'm going to jump down and kind of show you some one-on-one. There's 3 guys down here, but they're fighting this Earth Elemental. Let's see if I can take him out. So now, that's why it's important to stay on the bridges, because if you get off the bridge, you get away from your group of people, and then of course you get yourself killed. So my pistols, I'm using pistols right now, and they're pretty effective. I killed this guy. Boom. Right. Oh, nope. He's still alive. Here we go. That time I got him. So the pistols have become my weapon of choice in PvP, and you can see how fast-paced everything is. You don't really have a lot of time to throw down turrets and that sort of thing, although I am popping my potions as often as I possibly can. And I'm, of course, looking at my map. We are on a rush right now because the Jade Quarry folks have kind of left their defenses open in these supply camps, so we're running south to take advantage of that. And you can see I'm not very aggressive of a World vs. World player, and it's really hard to tell if an engineer is great at World vs. World or not. So far I think it's pretty good, simply because we're primarily a ranged class, so it is helpful in World vs. World because of how powerful we are at range, and not all classes have that power. A lot of classes have a shorter range on their weapons and that sort of thing. The other thing that I have found to be relatively useful, and I use it sometimes, is the net turret, and I guess that kind of goes against my whole theory on turrets, but the one thing about turrets that make them powerful in PvP is if you're standing still and you're being attacked by somebody, most classes will not be using their AoE attacks in World vs. World, and the reason is because the AoE attacks have less impact when you're fighting against 1 or 2 players. You obviously don't want to be equipped. For example, if you're an engineer, you don't want to be equipped with grenades if you're fighting one person, because those are more of an area attack type of weapon and do not do as much damage one-on-one. So when you go up against somebody, typically they aren't using those AoE attacks, and so I find that they ignore my turrets completely. And that's nice if you're doing one-on-one. But again, if you're away from your team and you're fighting one-on-one, you're really doing no good for anybody. So the goal is not necessarily to kill the other players. The goal is to take these keeps. So if you find yourself in a one-on-one situation, many times it's because you're in the wrong place and you should be someplace else. I mean, it's nice to know that you can take somebody one-on-one, but it's not really helpful to the team as a whole. Of course, here you can see one thing you can do too, and I'm doing it too because I have supply. Once you pick up your supply in the beginning of World vs. World, you of course can contribute to building these catapults and battering rams. And really, one thing that is interesting about this game is even though we have all these people, taking down this keep would be impossible without a battering ram. So it's essential that your groups have that and then that you build it. And then many times you do what I'm doing here, and that is backing up, because they have ballistas and arrow carts up on the walls that are raining down fire onto us. And you see I'm kind of limping around there. So I'm getting rid of some of the stuff in my inventory. One thing that bothers me a little bit in World vs. World that I've come to learn is when you kill somebody, they drop a little bag of loot, and you actually have to go find that bag of loot. And in the rush of battle, many times you lose a lot of the stuff that you probably would have looted. But I guess that's just how it works, so I can't complain too much. So anyway, back to what I was talking about. I'm talking about a little bit about the engineer and about what I'm doing. You can see I'm mostly just focusing completely on my pistols. I'm not switching weapons. I'm not switching to flamethrower because people are never really clustered close enough for the flamethrower to be effective. One thing I have tried in the future, and I'm not doing it in this particular game, is there's a toolkit that an engineer has. It allows you to wield this giant wrench, and it is the highest damage weapon that an engineer has when you're one-on-one. Of course, you have to be in melee range. So it's another thing where if somebody wades into your group like that person just did, you can get out your wrench and be able to do a ton of damage to them very quickly. But again, the pistols have become my new favorite for World vs. World, simply because of their multiple AoE abilities plus their single target abilities. It gives you just a lot of options in one weapon set. You don't have to be switching back and forth all the time. And this may change over time. I mean, with my traits the way they are, I just find the potions and the pistols to be my favorite thing for World vs. World. So I guess it's potion pistol World vs. World, I guess I could call it, 'cause that's what I enjoy. And in PvE, I'm more of a rifle flamethrower kind of guy. So it switches up depending on what you do. At some point, I'll probably try to put up a guide for structured PvP. I'm not sure how the engineer really fares in structured PvP, but I'm curious to see kind of what build is best for that, because that's almost more of a one-on-one situation a lot of the time. Even though it is two teams, one-on-one weapons may be the way to go. I'm not sure, so we'll have to see. So before I get into the discussion of what the Henge of Denravi server does on World vs. World, I guess I could talk a little bit about the news that's going on in the Guild Wars 2 world. Not a whole lot, actually, to tell you the truth. There's been a few patches that have made changes to the Mesmer class and some other things, but not as big as the first patch that I discussed in my last episode. They haven't done as many things. Really, a lot of the stuff they're trying to fix is really bug issues. They're still addressing hacking. I know that they were saying that hundreds of thousands of accounts that didn't even have the people who had the accounts with NCSoft haven't even purchased Guild Wars 2 yet, are being attempted to be hacked. So I guess they're making it so that you have to change your password if you bought Guild Wars 2 and you're trying to use your old account. So that's crazy, and that's just to be expected, I guess, with this thing. I still get spam emails. I now have the ability to report them, which is nice. I know Warcraft had that too, and it's just like I said before, it's like pushing the button on a street light. It feels good to click report, even though I don't know how much impact it really has. But it seems like the ArenaNet staff is pretty powerful on their stuff. You can see I'm just killing people left and right here. I'm getting a lot of achievements just because I haven't played much World vs. World, and that's nice. It's nice to see the achievements pop up when you kill people and all that sort of thing. So I'm trying to think what else has been going on. The other thing that has been talked about, and it's more of a forum discussion thing that I've seen, is people complaining about how quick it is to get to level 80. And it is relatively quick to get to level 80. I know some people were saying they got there in 10 or so hours. I don't know if I believe that necessarily. I mean, I know you can do it if you get your crafting materials all set up correctly, because you can get up to 10 levels crafting just by crafting. And so if you have all crafting professions maxed, potentially you could just get to level 80 just by crafting if you had all the supplies. But one thing that Guild Wars 1 did, and I didn't play Guild Wars 1, but I know I've heard that Guild Wars 1 a lot of times it's fairly easy to get to the top level, and the leveling part really isn't the point in Guild Wars 2. And I think a lot of people have that mindset from World of Warcraft and other MMOs about leveling and how fast it is to level and what do you do once you're done leveling. I think that Guild Wars is a little bit different in that respect, and there's so much to do that at this point I don't see myself getting to any kind of end for a couple hundred hours at the very least, which to me is more than enough, you know, for the price of the game, because you just get there and then eventually they'll come out with an expansion and that sort of thing. So for I guess a casual gamer, which I guess is a silly definition, but somebody like me who plays, you know, maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, and that's maybe stretching it. It's going to take a while for me to get through all that I want to get through. And then for those people who play 6 or 7 hours a day, even then, that's still quite a bit of time. If you want to really achieve everything in the game, I think there's still a lot to do. And, you know, the original Guild Wars 1, from what I hear, was really oriented around PvP. So, you know, that kind of goes on forever if it's done correctly. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on that. I know a lot of people have been talking about how quick it is to get to level 80, and I just don't see that. But then again, I'm not focusing as much on trying to complete as many heart quests as I can to level up. I'm kind of just wandering around each zone, enjoying the view, you know, smelling the roses and that sort of thing. So I was talking about this Henge of Denravi server, and Henge of Denravi is a server that we've been pitted up against fairly regularly, and Jade Quarry, the two of those. And right now we're actually losing considerably to both of them. And I would say that from an analysis point of view, we're not really losing to Jade Quarry. We're more losing to Henge of Denravi. They're eating us alive, and that's causing us to actually have less points than Jade Quarry, because Henge of Denravi's really been going after the Stormbluff Isle server as a whole. You can see, if you've been watching the footage kind of while I'm talking, we're moving our way south, and we're actually taking back a lot of stuff that belongs to the Jade Quarry. And the one thing I'll say is that what the Henge of Denravi has done, and they're very smart about this, is that they split their forces up, and Stormbluff Isle hasn't really gotten to the point yet, I don't think, where we're that coordinated. We tend to, like I said, zerg as a large group and just go from place to place. Now you can see we're pretty far south on the map. And the goal is to take Ogre-Watch Cut. That was kind of the big goal of the night. And we're going to head that direction. Actually, no, I'm sorry. We're going to go to Durios Gulch. And the other, so what Henge of Denravi does, and you'll see it, you don't see it in this video, but I've seen it before on World vs. World when I'm with them on a map. They will actually send out scouting parties, and those scouting parties will range from 2 to 4 people large. And at first you think they're just random people running around out in the wilderness. But if you watch them, they are very actually strategic. They will go to places and look around. They're doing a lot of scouting. They're just seeing what's going on. They also have the ability to really split our forces. They've been able to split their forces pretty equally in half to take on us. So meanwhile we'll be down here taking a keep like we're doing right now, and they'll be up north taking our supplies. And that's another really good thing that Henge of Denravi does well, is there's supply areas basically for each, you know, scattered throughout the map. Henge of Denravi has done a really good job of making sure that even though they lose their keeps, possibly, they never lose their supply, and will send all their forces out to protect their supply. And that's really smart, because some people still haven't figured out that the importance of supply, really. If you've seen my World vs. World supply video, you'll know the supply really feeds your keeps, upgrades all your power, and without your supply, it doesn't matter how many keeps you have, you're pretty much worthless, because those keeps are going to fall so quickly without that supply. So it's just a really important facet of World vs. World, and I really like just kind of this whole dynamic that's starting to come out. And it's going to be interesting to see, you know, if we can get as coordinated as that server is in terms of World vs. World. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on the Henge of Denravi. Props to them, because they've done a really good job against Jade Quarry and Stormbluff Isle, and I think they deserve the credit where it's due, because they've done a really good job. Now again, here you can see me. I'm just doing the engineer thing, running around and being goofy. I think that there's still some major issues with World vs. World, and the biggest number one issue is that it takes forever to get into it. I think this game that I'm showing you footage from took me at least 30 minutes, if not an hour, to get into after I queued up for it, and that's got to be fixed. A lot of times it reminds me of Alteric Valley back in the day, when the games took 8 hours to play. It took us 2 hours or so just to get into it, and then of course once we were in, it's great fun, and it's like, the most dynamic, exciting thing you've ever done really in a game. But it's just that wait is a little bit much. So that said, I think that most things about World vs. World are actually pretty good. People have complained about level 80s one-shotting those of us who aren't level 80. But as you can tell, of course, I'm being cautious right now, but you can tell throughout this I was surrounded by enemies at points in time and never was one shot by a level 80. So I don't necessarily agree with that assessment. I think that some people just don't know their role yet in World vs. World, and they'll figure it out. An engineer's role is not to wade into the group of enemies and start shooting, and the same goes for Elementalist, Mesmer. Really, any class that isn't wearing mega heavy armor shouldn't be too close to the enemy. They should be standing from a distance and shooting and doing that sort of thing. So I think that, you know, things are going to settle down here a few weeks, and we're going to really see what the issues are with World vs. World, and they're going to get fixed by ArenaNet. I'm confident of that. They've done such a good job with Guild Wars 1, and they're doing a great job with Guild Wars 2 that I have confidence that things are going to even out in that respect. And then, of course, you always have to take into account that, like, this is an amazing game in many ways. You have this entire World vs. World game within a game that has more content than I remember an MMO having in a long time. Even Star Wars The Old Republic, when it came out, did not have the amount of content that I think Guild Wars 2 has. The world seems so incredibly expansive. The buildings are scaled to size. If you played World of Warcraft, you know that Stormwind is almost like being in Toontown because of the way it's scaled. It is in no way the correct scale, the buildings and all that, and you know it when you're in there. Whereas in Guild Wars 2, a lot of the scale is just incredible because they've actually taken the time to make the buildings as big as they should be. So, got myself a Vista right there. I didn't watch it because I'm in the middle of battle. To come back and check that one out. Alright, so I'm going to end off this episode with me jumping off the Lion's Arch diving board as a jackalope, because that's just how I roll. So here we go. Here goes the little jackalope. Let's get a running head start. Oh, yeah. And look at that jackalope swimming in the water. So, hope you enjoyed my look at World vs. World, the Engineer, Henge of Denravi, patch notes, and all that news. And if you liked, please like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And I will catch you again soon. Thanks for joining me.